What up, man?
What's the word? What's the word?
Man, I'm so glad you are here. We talked a couple times over the last couple weeks.
Yes, sir.
And I'm always looking for signs if I'm doing things right or if I'm in the right direction.
Okay.
And when you agreed to come out here and hang out for a little bit, the next day I'm in my front yard, and I'm putting this table together, trying to get everything set up. And I was out there painting the trim and everything, and a car pulls up to my neighbor's house. And this young black guy gets out, and he's got a couple bags of food with him. He's walking up, and he stops halfway up the driveway, and he kind of looks at me. And we just kind of, I got a spray can, I'm out there, and I kind of stand up for a minute, and I was like, we kind of just look at each other, and I was like, took a second, and I was like, man, how you doing? He's like, I'm doing fine. How are you doing, sir? And all of a sudden, this little conversation starts. And so I was like, you know what? I put the paint can down. I wiped my hands off. I walked over and shook his hand, and I asked him for his name. And, man, God forgive me. It wasn't Julio, but it was a name he gave me. But right off the bat, I could see that his accent was an American. So I was like, hey, man, where are you from? And he's like, I'm from Africa. I was like, really? I said, how long you been in the States? And he said about 2 years. He had moved here to stay with his sisters. And, you know, we kind of just acknowledged each other for a minute. And I said, look, man, with the crazy world that's going on, because this is when the protest was getting really heated. Mm-hmm. Or protests/riots, you know, depending on where you're coming from. You know, things were very emotional in the moment, you know. And I was like, look, man, I said, I got a friend who's a black officer in Houston here. I know him and his family's dealing with a lot and everything. So just, you know, stay safe, man. And you know, I just want you to know we're not all like this, you know, but welcome to America, right? You know, and in the moment he stopped there and kind of quiet, and he said, you know, his sister lives in New York, and that she was a police officer. And she was coming home every night crying for everything she was faced, because her heart was in the middle of being a police officer, but also being a young black woman in New York. And it was taking a toll on her. And, you know, I just encouraged him for a minute, and you know, we kind of went along our way. And after that conversation, I got excited to really sit down and talk to you, to learn different perspectives, because you're somebody who can speak on both sides of the line. And with the way the world is right now, I think that's very knowledgeable when you can speak from multiple views of something. So I'm really glad you're here today, man. And I can't wait to hear the bits and pieces of your life there.
Bits and pieces. I appreciate you for inviting me.
So where are you originally from?
I'm originally from Houston, Texas. Fifth Ward is a area in Houston that's known all over the world, Fifth Ward. So I always say Fifth Ward, Texas, but it's in the north side of Houston. So I'm originally from Houston and from Fifth Ward.
So you've been here all your life?
I've lived in Houston all my life, outside of going to the military, you know, but I've lived in Houston all my life.
Okay. And how old are you again?
I'll be 50.
50. Okay. So talk a little bit about your childhood, like coming from the Fifth Ward, like talk a little bit about that.
Born and raised in Houston, Fifth Ward, Texas. Only child.
Only child.
I'm only child. My mother, single mother.
Single mother.
Single mother household. Mother had me at 16 years of age.
16.
At 16, yep. And my dad was kind of in and out. I've seen him a couple of times, but not too many times. But I know who he is, though.
Okay.
But the wonderful part about that is that even though he was in and out of my life, his side of the family were very active in my life. So,
okay.
And I'm very close with them. And so, but like I said, the only child, mom had me at 16. I think she did a great job. Kudos, mom. Kudos,
Right.
kudos.
Shout out to mom right there.
Yeah.
I take it your mom and dad never really came together?
No, they were.
Okay.
It was like a little date thing, and
And right.
son of a gun. There you go.
And you said you was very involved with his side of the family too, or did they live in the same area?
Well, all everybody lived on the north side, yeah.
Okay.
So I was, close to my mom's side family and my dad's side family. But everybody, stayed in that same north side area. Yeah.
Okay. What year you graduated?
I graduated from Cashmere High School here in Houston in 1989.
Ooh.
Yes.
Ooh, 89.
89.
94, bro. I wasn't too far
it
behind
wasn't that
you.
far, but yeah.
Right around
89.
89.
Mm-hmm.
And then where did you go from there?
When I graduated from high school, my mom had finally kind of, I guess, met her somebody. So she was like, I think I'm going to get married. I was like, but I didn't want to step on her parade, so
Right.
I would be selfish. So I was like, well, I think I'm going to the military. Didn't want to go to college because I didn't think I was going to go to college and mess with all the females and not focus on work. so I need some growing to do.
So you acknowledge a little discipline you needed in your life.
Yep.
Okay.
So I decided, let me take this military trip and went to the U.S. Army. And I stayed in there 4 years.
4 years.
Yeah, and 4 years was the worst 4 years of my life. But hey, it's what it is. I didn't like the military at all.
You didn't like it at all?
No, it was a horrible experience for me.
For you?
Yeah, for me. Yeah, I got up out of there as fast as I could.
I know for me, the military was a way to get out of small town Louisiana.
Mm-hmm.
I was basically a boy thrown into a man's world very fast. I probably wasn't prepared for.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that it was the worst experience of my life. I probably just wasn't prepared, but I do have some great moments, and then there's a couple things in there that, man, I wish I could undo or redo or something.
Right.
Right. What did you do in the military?
Well, even in that horrible 4 years, you can always still find a little bit of greatness here and there, but
Right.
the horribleness outweighed the greatness.
What was one of your biggest challenges, if you can speak on it?
One of my biggest challenges was that, when I went to the military, they lied. The recruiter is a liar. You could call that what I'm just being honest.
They're
with
just
you.
a salesman.
Yeah. Because being an only child, it was like, hey, you can never go to war because you're an only child. You keep that last
Whatever.
name. You keep that last name. So you're not gonna go to war. So I'm like, all right, bet, cool. Whatever. What happens? There's a storm. I'm like, hey, man, I can't go. I'm the only child.
Right.
Yeah, you better get you on that plane. So I was like, no, this is not, cool. So I broke out and left and went home. And they was like, you can't go AWOL. So everybody in the family talked to me. So I ended up going back, though, and made that trip. But
So did you go overseas for Desert Storm?
yeah, I stayed 8 months in Desert Storm.
Really?
8 months.
That I didn't know.
Yeah, 8 months in Desert Storm. Yeah.
Where at?
Iraq.
Iraq.
Yeah. True story. So we were in Iraq. We had landed, and so we were on a convoy. And so a friend of mine was like, "Hey," he drove the fuel truck.
Right.
So he drove the fuel truck. So I rode with him. So we end up having to stop and fuel up one of the regular size, vehicles.
Okay.
And so while we fueled the vehicles, the convoy kept on going. Well, the regular size vehicle caught up with the convoy, but the fuel truck wasn't fast enough, so we couldn't catch
Right.
up. So here we are in Iraq, middle, lost like a son of a gun.
Doing 6 miles an hour.
Doing, man. And so I was trying to cry, you're 18, 19 years old, so you're like, I said, this is where I'm going to end it at, right here.
Right.
And so you saw the people, burning flags, saying it's in America, they didn't want us on their soil or whatever. So we lost, we just riding around. We got ARs, no bullets. I'm like, this is, just like, man. And anyway, we ended up finding the universal sign, which is the hospital sign with the little cross, whatever, and got there. And they got us some help.
I couldn't imagine, because I was F-16's Air Force.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't down on the ground involved with anything. I was just strictly flight line. So even if I got pulled into a Desert Storm or anything, I wouldn't have never seen it up close, because we'd have been launching from an airport.
Right. Well, you was the Air Force. Y'all had all the good stuff.
We had some toys.
Yeah,
we had some toys.
I'm talking about, like, we had tents. Y'all tents we went by Air Force Base. They had like the metal type tents and everything. I'm like, what what is this, like River Oaks and like what? I was like, well, I should have went to the Air Force. So yeah.
So when did you get out?
I got out in 93.
93.
93.
Okay.
I told you I ran out. I was like, after this military line. So you can't go to war. You're only child. So if you stay overseas more than 6 months, one time, whatever, you have to stay in states for a whole year before you can go overseas again.
Okay.
What happened? Came from Iraq, Desert Storm. Came home 5 months. Oh, you got orders. Orders where? To Korea. I'm like, this is some bull.
How long was you in Korea?
A year. Ooh. And then I was supposed to be out 6 months later, 5 months later. So they were like, well, you're going to stay in Korea, actually, 17 months. And I was like, I'm not staying over here 17 months. So I had to learn. I read up on how I can get out early. So I ended up leaving Korea in 11 months. And I got accepted to U of H in downtown Houston. So they let me out early.
Oh, so you went to the military to avoid college, and then you
ended up going to college.
You took college to avoid the military.
Exactly.
I'm just making sure I'm understanding the story.
Exactly.
All right. So you was able to get out 93 U of H.
Mm-hmm.
How long was you in college there?
I stayed in college for about a good year and a half until I joined the police force, and then I was like, "Hey, I found my niche." And
So here we go with the turning point.
Yeah.
What made you join the police force?
Well, it was at that time. It was a job that was available.
Right.
My dad had been in and out of prison all his life, and so I wanted to. I was just trying so hard at a minute not to go down that road.
Right.
And so I looked at to law enforcement, and that's kind of how I ended up in that profession.
So, how long you been in law enforcement?
Almost 30 years, probably about 28. Yeah, about 28 years, something like that. Just as long as I've been married.
Who did you meet first? Did you become a cop, or you met your wife first?
I mean, my wife and I went to high school together. We graduated. We dated in high school, and off and on. I was a monster. So
Right.
we broke up, whatever. And so we got married. I was I think my last year in the military. I think.
Okay, so y'all stayed in contact with the military.
Yeah, off and on. Yeah, she would write
off.
me.
Okay.
And then she really wrote me when I was in Desert Storm. So I was like, she really loves me because nobody else was writing. So she
Right.
gave me hope while I was over there.
Right.
Yeah,
Them letters are gold when you.
But hey, you better believe
Right.
it. And them little care packages that they.
Right.
Yeah, it was wonderful.
I remember some of those
Yeah.
back in the day.
Yeah.
So, overall, can you talk about different positions of being a police officer? Like, and look, I don't know anything. So, are we talking 4 or 5 years in patrol, and then you went from here to here? Like, what's the different positions?
I started out I started off actually in Harris County as a juvenile probation officer. Okay, and then I left there and went to Harris County and became a jailer. And the jailer is like a person that's in the jail. I wasn't
Gotcha.
a deputy. I was a jailer. I just worked inside of the jail. Then after that, I became a deputy. And so then I became a deputy. And I was a deputy from 95, I think. 95 to 2004. And then and after that, I left and went to Houston ISD Police Department. But while I was at Harris County, I was a jailer. I worked in warrants and IPC. IPC is the intake process in center when somebody gets arrested. We do all the paperwork and all the the booking and stuff like that. And I left Harris County and went to Houston ISD because in that transition, I had a music company, gospel record label.
Okay.
And so I was trying to follow that dream, but I still needed a job. So I looked into school-based law enforcement because in school-based law enforcement, you are 85% to get a weekend off.
Okay.
So I had been in Harris County, 15, 16 years, and still was off Monday, Tuesday. I couldn't get like a Friday, I couldn't get a Saturday, or nothing. And so with the gospel group I had, we were traveling all over the world. So I was burning up all my vacation and my, my sick days and everything. So like, let me try something else. So I ended up in HISD, which is school-based law enforcement. And I've been there till present day, which is about 16. Yeah, somebody's bumping some
I know.
bass,
I was like,
some good bass out
right.
there. Yeah. And so to your point, in HISD, I worked on the campus.
Okay.
Then I worked as an officer who would go to elementary schools and kind of give presentations.
Okay.
And then I went to patrol, and I patrolled there. And then now I'm on a special detail unit now.
Okay. I'm asking this because I don't know, and me and the family just got back from Gulf Shores and whatnot. What is the difference between the officers and then you see the state police? And I know right off the bat the generic of it, but I'm just asking, where are they out of? Are they positioned just on, let's say, the state highways and whatnot, and then y'all are city limits, or just
for your most part, so Texas have DPS, Department of Public Safety.
Okay.
So they have troopers, and so most troopers patrol the highways.
Okay.
When you're going down those roads through Texas or whatever, they out there kind of like on the island all by themselves because you don't have that many out there. And then, but it's all based on jurisdiction. So you have Houston, so you have HPD.
Right.
HPD patrols the city. Then you have Harris County, which they patrol the county. Then you have constables, which patrols parts of the county. And then you have school-based law enforcement. We have HISD, Spring, Klein. They take care of the districts themselves. So, lesson, if you're at HISD and something happens on the property, and you say, somebody broke into my car, I'm going to call HPD. Well, HPD's going to say, no, call HISD. They got their own police department. They'll take care of that.
Okay.
We don't have time for that. So now that doesn't mean that if you're in the city and the county officer can't pull you over, or HISD officer can't pull you over, because they all write these tickets. They're all peace officers, But it's all about jurisdiction.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
You said going around the world or going around singing.
Mm-hmm.
When did you start singing? What age you start singing?
When I was born, when I was able to talk.
Right.
And I've been singing music since I can remember. I just so long.
Was your mom musical?
No.
Well,
I think my grandfather was musical. I don't know. My mom wasn't musical. My
anybody
dad,
play an instrument or anything in the house?
No, well, no. But I took music in school. I took band the whole time. I played instrument from elementary all the way up. So I've been playing, music. But then I got the music from my dad's side of the family, and I started singing in church and directing the choir and all that stuff like that.
Did the church thing forever and a day?
Yes,
Gotcha.
yes. And so I started doing talent shows and so forth and so on.
Come on.
I've been singing since I can remember.
What is it about singing that is your art? Was it something you fell in love with, or was it something you kind of had a talent and then your talent kind of found your way? Because some people, they come into what I call the arts differently.
Right.
Some people sing in the shower and mama was like, baby, you got something right there. And then some people, just have a love for music and then they grow into it.
Yeah, for me, music is a universal language. And
yes.
Music speaks to people. You can say things in music. You can get things out of music, you know what I'm saying? So that's kind of where I picked it up from. I'm just, when I was younger and I used to have a lot of, date a lot of girls, I would find songs and be like, hey, listen to this song right here because this song expressed my heart,
Right.
So I would find those songs, different words, stuff like that. And
couldn't really talk, but you could,
yeah,
you could sing a line.
No, I didn't even sing. I just,
right.
But that's the thing about music. I can say, listen to this song and the lyrics, especially back then. Now, this music today, no knock on it, but back then the music had things, different things that it spoke to you. You know what I'm saying?
Storytellers.
Right, they're storytellers, yeah. So
yes.
I could hear some song, but that's how I feel about her. Hey, listen to this song here, So that's kind of how I picked it up. And then as I got in church,
My feeling was overall, music kind of stopped, at the end of by 2000. And it seems like ever since then, it's all kind of been the same. Because I don't feel like there's that many storytellers like they did back in the day.
Back then, yeah. I think now it's more about the beat instead of the lyrics. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's kind of, where it is. Because I know it's like the music. I'm like, and then everything talks about, sex and doing, there's no.
But it's the same regurgitation, I feel like.
Yeah.
And I grew up where you had the different charts: country, rock, R&B, rap. And I feel like a lot of that's even mesh, which some of it's a good thing. There's a lot of meshing going on, but I feel like I don't know. It's all starting to sound the same, regardless of where you fall. For me, for
you,
some of
okay,
it,
yeah.
Because Gabby plays all kinds of music, and but she has a taste from songs from the 1940s till now, you know, and you can definitely tell the difference.
Oh yeah.
You know, where even late 1990s, it was still good. And I explained to her, you know, there's some songs that when you're 60, they're still going to play at a wedding.
Exactly.
That's from
exactly
our generation,
Yes.
or my lifetime,
Yes.
where some of the songs you're hearing today,
you won't never hear. Yeah,
you'll never hear
yeah,
them.
yeah.
Once they get off the top 10,
That's
they're
it.
done.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly. Yeah.
So I'm glad I've seen the birth of MTV and everything else
Right.
in the world. You know, so overall, you've held anywhere between 5 to 10 positions as a police officer.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So I guess we can fast forward to present day.
Mm-hmm.
How are you feeling today? As I don't know, how can we start some of this off? Where's your heart laying right now as a black man, but also as a police officer, with the way 2020 has started off?
Mm-hmm. Well, when you ask me how I'm feeling great. I mean, you know, because I'm one of those people, you know, my happiness doesn't lie within the world.
Right.
So, and that's why I'm feeling great.
And I know this about you.
Right.
I'm just
talking to
right.
you people, you know, but
Right.
that's how I'm feeling, you know. Now, are there some things that, you know, that I'm displeased with? Of course, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so, as a police officer, you know, as a black man, because I'm a black man first, and a police
Right.
officer, there's some things that I see that I'm displeased with, you
Right.
know, from both aspects, from both, you know, both sides. And so, but I just try to, you know, to do my part, because that's why I got into law enforcement. You know, I have a 25-year-old daughter who's in law enforcement as well. So, you know, I just try to do my part in it the best I can, and try to represent law enforcement, you know, the best I can. And sometimes people miss that. They miss that because of all the stuff that they see.
Have you taken slack for becoming an officer, like when you was younger, or you feel like you're taking maybe more heat now? Like, how's that been?
Well, yeah, you won't always take, you know, you're free, like, oh, you the popo, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, you know, but I don't think it was never anything like just really like harmful, whatever. But you just kind of hear those saying. And then, you know, for like my daughter and I, when we had the protest downtown, you know, you got a few sellouts here and
Right.
there like that. But, you know,
Which is funny because, and when I say funny, I don't mean ha, but it's like the protest is happening in 2020, but you've been an officer for almost 30 years. It ain't like you joined the bandwagon the day of it. You know, you're like, I've been here this whole time as a police officer,
right.
you know? So I can see where I guess you get Uncle Tom'd.
Well, we just get
out in the neighborhood.
You just get a lot of, you know, sellouts, and why you doing that profession, you know,
Right.
Not quite understanding, you know, why. And sometimes, you know, I try not to trip about it, because I understand people are angry, you know,
Right.
they're upset, you know, and they're frustrated. So I get it. I try not to take it personal.
Did you ever have to serve in your old neighborhood as a police officer?
No.
Okay.
No. Now, have I ever dealt with people from my old neighborhood? Yes, I have. You know,
Okay.
actually, you know, and I've actually had to deal with my father as a law enforcement officer.
Really?
Yeah. It was very,
Well, that's a unique
yeah, it was a very
situation.
very, you know, different or whatever. But, you know, as anybody, you know, and I wore this uniform, I try to treat everybody with respect.
Right.
You know, I told my daughter when she got into the profession, this is a 90% communication and 10% everything else. You have to learn how to talk to people.
Break that down for a second.
Meaning that you have to learn how to talk to people. You have to understand that everybody's struggle is different than the next person's. And just because it's all good for you doesn't mean it's all good for the next person, you know, that you may have come encounter with. And when I say communication, so I pulled over Thomas today, and Thomas was happy-go-lucky, you know, hey, officer, you already
Right.
know, it's great. But tomorrow I pull over, you know, John. John's a straight butt, you know what I'm saying? But I deal with that individual, then the next day I pull over another person, and they're good people, but I don't want to take out my bad experience with John on the next individual. So you have to treat each person and your communication with that person and not try to let it bleed over to,
how difficult is that?
It can be difficult sometimes. But here's the thing about this job that, when you think about people that's in the military and they have PTSD when they go over, they go overseas and they have all the shooting or whatever. People don't think that, officers can have that. You know what I'm saying? When you talk about, you see all the violence and you see the dead people, it can truly affect you or whatever.
You need to answer that?
No, I'm good. Okay. But that's where, you have to look for counseling and therapy. Short story, my daughter, she'd seen a couple of dead bodies and shootings and stuff like that. And so she was just like, oh, okay. But then she saw a child, that was murdered. It bothered her. And so she called and we talked about it, whatever. And she just, sleeping, whatever. So we had that conversation because when I told her, I said, well, anytime you feel like you want to talk about something, you need to talk because you need an outlet. You need to be able to vent that out. But a lot of people keep that stuff in. And so when you keep it in, then you have these experiences and you're angry, and those are things when you can blow up different things. Now, some officers are just butts. You know what I'm saying? You have the ones that was at school and got bullied and they come and take this, they got the uniform until they think that, you know what I'm saying? But again, like I say to officers, we have to judge each person that we come in contact with. People have to judge each officer as they come in contact with it. Instead of looping us all in, as a bunch, as we do.
Right. As what you're seeing a lot of.
Right.
I think a lot of people are drawing lines in the sand and asking you to stand on one side or the other. Yeah, and I don't think it's that easy.
Right.
Especially, let's say, for your case, where you have love for your brothers and sisters in uniform, but also as a black man, you're just as frustrated with the
injustice of black men, of the unarmed black men, of the unarmed black women. I'm just as frustrated and just as bothered by it as anybody else. And people say, well, what are you doing about it? Well, I got in the profession. I got in the profession to help, to make a change. But sometimes you can't see my small change because people don't promote my, what I'm doing out there. Great. People don't talk about just take my experiences on when I was working for the school district. And so as an officer, I bought students prom dresses. I, gave families, financial help. I've mentored, young men, but that stuff is not
talked about
or put out, you know what I'm saying, whatever. So I'm doing my part, now, but they don't see that. So those are the kind of things that when you talk about either on one side or, on the left side. I have a cousin he's the police. He just cannot, he talk and if it's one bad apple, the whole bunch is, and I'm like, listen, I don't care if you say, we had a conversation. I don't care if you say on the radio or on TV that, that he gets upset when they say like 99% of the officers are good. He's like, that's bull crap. That's bull crap. But my point is to him though, and I can respect that. But then when you say, hey, I'm not gonna agree with 99%. I say 10% are good, but just give the people that are trying to do the right thing, just give them a little hope of credit that, you believe in something. Because like I told him, I'm not bad. I've been in this profession almost 30 years and I ain't, done nothing, everything I've done, I've tried to do with integrity and, true character. You know what I'm saying? So, and I know there's a lot of officers out here that's, that are doing that. So that's where my frustration comes in on the other side as well. With people just trying to loop us all together and say we all trash.
Right. As a police officer, you mentioned influencing youth and whatnot. Mm-hmm. When have you felt like you've done your best work as an officer? Was it that time that you was helping with the kids or talking to, let's say, inmates in and out of jail? Like
both.
Do you have like a moment where you're like, man, that was a good season as a police officer because you felt like you was able to do more than, let's say, other positions?
Well, both. I mean, because when you talk about in school-based law enforcement, when I had a student who became an officer because, and when he became an officer, he he was HPD officer. He came up to me and said, "Chuck, you remember me? I was at, you was officer
That had
at the
to feel
campus.
good.
It felt
That had-
wonderful." He said, "Man, I got into this job because of you and how you taught
Right.
us and you treated whatever." So I'm like, "Man, congratulations." I said, "Man, I'm getting old, to see him do that." But because of he saw my character and how I worked, he wanted to do this here. But those are things that don't get reported. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so when I worked in the jail,
It doesn't trend on Twitter and whatnot.
right. So when I worked in the jail, even though they were inmates, I still treated them like they were people. You see
Right.
what I'm saying? And so I always remember this here. When you worked in the jail as a deputy, you had maybe, let's say, 50 inmates.
Okay.
They're going to remember you. You might not remember all 50 of them. You know what I'm saying? So when I interacted with those individuals, and I would be out in the streets, and I remember several times I've been at a barbershop, I've been with my family, and inmates came up to me, boss man, you remember me? I'm like, nah. I was in, floor such and such. So he said, man, I appreciate you how, you talked to us and you treated us.
Right.
Those things made me feel good. For somebody to come out, whether they were criminal or not, to say, hey, you treated me with respect in spite of. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You talk, because I used to go in there and I preach to them and I talk to them like there's a better life out there. And somebody would be like, man, oh, come on.
Right.
But when the ones tell me, hey, man, what you said to me really resonated. Those are the experiences that, make me grateful, for taking the job and doing what I do. So that, I'll continue to do it in spite of all of the madness going on
Right.
or whatever. So,
If we touch base on the Floyd incident,
mm-hmm.
okay, maybe not Floyd. Let's just say the actions of crazy scenarios with young black men over the last couple of years with police officers.
Mm-hmm.
In your heart or in your mind or your opinion, do you feel that at times was it really a racial thing, or was it more of a power control or a system failure? Like how are you seeing some of these cases? And I don't know if I'm asking that right.
I kind of get where you're coming from.
Okay.
But a lot of the 95% of the incidents where I see what officers with unarmed black men, I think it's a racial deal. I don't think it's I just think it's a, for some reason they see black men as a threat, or I don't understand it.
Right.
I can't, but. I've seen several times how different people have been treated different by officers, because of the color of their skin. So I can't explain it. I don't understand it, but it's not everybody, but it is some people. You know what I'm saying? And so that's also what gets highlighted. But all the experience, all the things that are out here, for the majority of them, not all of them, for the majority of them, and I think it's a black and white thing.
Well, you had mentioned earlier, some people, they think they're all that when they get a uniform.
Mm-hmm.
And this is meant by no disrespect.
Right.
I just see the power hungriness. Like you see that officer with Floyd, he just looked like he was just full of ego. And full of ego and just not respecting human life. Like, part of me feels like that guy would have been a butthole to anybody and almost everybody, because that's the impression I get from him.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I asked the question, because some of these cases, it's an unfortunate scenario, and you're like, wait a minute, what kind of went wrong? But with Floyd, it was very clear from start to finish what took place. You can't argue with it. At the same time, it just it makes me wonder, because there was 3 other guys sitting on Floyd in this moment, and it just it's the respect of human life from where my heart is right off the bat.
But I don't believe, and I would disagree that I don't think that if it was a white person, they would have done that. I just don't. I just
Definitely
don't
not
see
for
that.
a bounce check.
Right.
For
You
sure.
know,
I agree with you. I agree with
and to that point is that, and I'm sure that if you looked at every complaint that this individual had, I can assure you that it was probably 90% of African Americans, black people that filed
Right.
complaints against him because of one, he patrolled in that area, of the low income area or whatever.
Okay.
So I'm sure that that's just who he was and what he was. You know what I'm saying? And to the point of the two rookies, I believe they were, now.
They're probably just following the leader at that
because
point.
when I first got onto this job, I've seen some things. I'm like, hey, do people do this kind of stuff? So I saw that, and so when I first got in, I didn't know how to speak out, or say something because I'm getting into the culture, so I'm trying to get my feet wet or whatever.
Right.
But eventually, when I got in and I started seeing things, I'm like, hey, bro, I don't roll like that. We not, doing that or whatever. So you find yourself when you start standing up and saying stuff, you get pushed over here. So the people that want to do the wrong thing, they're not going to fool with you because they know that you're not going to stand for it. You're going to say something or whatever.
Right.
So they're going to, it's almost like when you in school, the certain groups hung with the certain groups or whatever. So, when people try to say this is thin blue line, I don't really see that this a thin blue line. I just think that when officers know that you're not going to stand for them to do the wrong thing or whatever, they're going to stay as far away from you as they can. And they're going to hang with the people that's going to accept that nonsense. You know what I'm saying? So it's like these separatists of, groups of officers
Right.
or whatever. So it's not about a thin blue line for me. That's just my opinion. It's just that people that's going to do the wrong thing are going to hang in their own circle, and they're going to be far away from the ones that's going to hold them accountable, or say something to them about their actions.
Now, I want to ask you a series of questions,
Mm-hmm.
not from me. At times, I see like these debates on social media.
Ooh.
Okay, I don't know. I might be opening a jar, but I want to get your sense.
Right.
So again, this is not from me. I'm asking from different variations.
From different variations. Yeah.
Different variations. In moments where there's resisting arrest,
Mm-hmm.
how can both sides maybe diffuse the problem in that moment? Because I'm watching the escalations, right?
Mm-hmm.
And prior to Floyd, you'd always see a clip or a video, and you don't feel like you got the whole story. You know,
most of the time.
most of the time. And I would see people like, well, why did this guy start fighting with the officer?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, I don't know if the officer said something. I don't know if this guy's a legit punk or he's cracked out. I don't know.
Right.
So let's say the resisting of arrest. Okay, how can we handle that from both sides? And I want you to speak upon as a black man and maybe also an officer as the starting point of conflict.
Well, I know when I would mentor young, people, and I would tell them when they come into contact with police or whatever, and they feel like something's about to go wrong or whatever, don't resist. Just try to, let them handcuff you or whatever, because if they're wrong, we can fight your battle, with you being locked up falsely or, them mistreating you. We can fight that battle. But if you, resist and it goes from 0 to 10 and you end up being killed by them, and it may be an unjust kill, we can march all day, but we can't bring you back. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's why, I say to them, hey,
Right. It's easier to fight your case when you're alive.
Exactly. And so, and from the side of officers, sometimes we got to just have a little bit more patience when we're interacting with people, because listen, I've tried it. When people don't want to be handcuffed, people think I don't care if it's a young 18-year-old, 17-year-old, little small female. When somebody does not want to be handcuffed, it is very hard to put handcuffs on them, because I've dealt with it, period.
Right.
So we got to try to have a little bit more patience. We got to try to use our verbal skills to get them to somehow do what we're asking them to do. You know what I'm saying? And then if not, and we have to put hands on them, we want to try to do it with the least force that's possible. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to be punching nobody in the head and kicking folk. You know what I'm saying? Just we taught pressure points. You know what I'm saying? And I understand that sometimes you get out there and when you feel like it's a fight for your life, you forget about all that stuff. You know, been there, done that. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh man.
Well, I mean, I can imagine that at the end of the day, if you're wrestling with a crackhead, you're wrestling with a crackhead. Let's just be honest here, okay? If you're dealing with some little traffic stop and you're dealing with a dramatic teenager, you got to kind of roll with a little more patience and be like, look, you work with me, I'm going to work with you.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's take an average day for a police officer.
Mm-hmm.
For people who don't understand how much you deal with, okay? Do you deal with a dozen cases, let's say, in a patrol? Is it 20? Is it 30? Like how much are you dealing with, let's say on a consistent, like what's a consistent level of events, or I don't know how you want to.
It's hard to say when you talk about calls because it depends on what beat you work in. Some beats are hotter than others. Some people work in a certain district and as soon as they get a call, you know, one Paul 13, you know, whatever, you get that call, you deal with that, you take them, you book them, you do that.
It ain't nothing for them to see 10 shootings in the same day.
Not necessarily shootings, but just incidents from domestic violence to shootings to, you know, whatever. But when they get those calls and they do all the transport, they arrest them. As soon as they get back on the street, boop, they got another call. You know what I'm saying? Some districts, they chill. You might get one call today. You know what I'm saying? So it just depends on the area you're working in and, you know, what district you in, you know, in that area or that city.
I would imagine it's hard for a police officer to get the second call when he's still writing the ticket or whatever for the first call. Like he don't even have time to process the day he's having, you know? So, you know, you talking about being in the military and coming home and seeking a little help, but for a police officer, he don't get a moment to kind of like reset at times depending on the beat he's working on, correct?
But that's why I go back to the point. When I worked at the sheriff's department, I've seen from suicides to rapes to, everything. So I had to find an outlet for me. You know what I'm saying? Because those things affect. And a lot of officers don't find, they just try to be that tough guy stuff and don't realize that this stuff is affecting them.
Right.
And so when they're out there on the street, that stuff sometimes comes out, you know, and they don't even realize.
How important it is to uphold a tough guy persona? Is it does it kind of come with the uniform where you're trying to act like you can handle it all?
Yeah, it depends on the person, you know, that persona. Because at the end of the day, for me, you know, I get called this, that, and the third, but you don't pay me my check. You know what I'm saying? I don't live with you.
Right.
So whatever you call me, it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? But it takes a while to get like that because I've seen people be rattled by folks calling, you know, names and this, that, and the third. I'm like, don't let that bother you, man. Don't let that bother you. You know what I'm saying? Because it's what they're trying to do. They're trying to bait you in. So don't let that bother you. So, you know, there's always, you know, that. And that's, I'm serious. People talk about, you know, therapies and out, you know what I'm saying? Working out. That's a great way to release, you know, some of your things.
What was your outlet?
Music. You know, music in church. I think, you know, my grounding in church and belief, you know, helped me a lot to talk to people, you know what I'm saying, and have empathy for people. Because some people in this business don't have empathy. It's like, you know, it's us against them, and it shouldn't be like that.
Right, there's always a line in the sand.
Yeah,
always.
Yeah. You have some officers feel like, you know, it's us against them, and it shouldn't be like that.
How is the role of let's say police officers and firemen and whatnot? Because I guess a lot of first responders are in the same boat.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I used to work with a guy who was a fireman, and there would be days he would walk into work because he got called out twice the night before, and you know he's just dealt with a lot that night.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I would imagine y'all working with other first responders too. That there's that I don't want to say take a toll because they're there to help with you, but there's always a consistent how can I put this, team effort dealing with some of the bigger cases of the day, right? How much involvement was you with other first responders? I guess what I'm getting with.
I've had involvement when you talk about like car accidents, when you talk about scenes that you walked upon where there was homicide, stuff like that. So you get those times. But the one thing, a great thing I like about the fire department though is that they get like 4 days on and 5 days off, and 5 days on and 4 days off, stuff like that. And and I thought about that, like maybe police officers need to do something like that, where they can get some time to unpack some of those some of those things.
Why is it their schedule's a little flexible?
I have no idea. I'm gonna have to ask my cousin. He's a firefighter. I have to ask my cousin.
I would imagine because they're not getting the calls as many as y'all.
No, they don't. Yeah, they don't get the calls as many. Now their EMS, may get quite a bit of calls, but they won't get the calls, on a constant basis. Like but they work the whole day, though. You know what I'm saying? So they do 4 days at the station. Then I take 5 days, something like that. So I guess we couldn't do that though, because we'd be crazy because we don't get no bed and nothing like that. But I've experienced them. And like I said, for me, man, this is just me. Regardless, I just try to treat everybody with respect. You know what I'm saying, man? Regardless,
With the protest and, well, I mean, there's so many layers to these conversations.
Right.
Overall, how did you see the protest? Being a guy from both sides of the line.
Well, I think people should be able to, have peaceful protesting. I don't see anything, wrong with that. I think that, they should protest peacefully, to try to express, what they feel. But I feel at the same time that in our protests we have to be understanding. You know what I'm saying? Because again, it's that theory: you either over here, over there. You know what I'm saying? And so, when you protest, like, hey, we're protesting for the brutality of police. You know what I'm saying? So let's have dialogue about it. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, it can't just all be your way. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Then it can't always be the police way. We have to sit down and compromise on, these things like that. And it's so easy for people to say, well, we need, let's say, like, one of the things I hear people saying is they want a civilian board or something like that or whatever.
Yeah, I've heard that.
But, the thing that I say about the civilian board is that if you've never been in this profession, you never experienced the things that these officers experience, you can't understand. You know what I'm saying? And now, what's right is what's right and what's wrong is what's wrong. But there are some small instances and things that you won't understand because you never experienced that. You know what I'm saying? You never been in those shoes. So, I was like, I don't know about, the civilian board unless maybe you mixed it with, people had been in law enforcement or whatever, so they can kind of explain, this, that, and the third. But
people think you can just cancel out the police, but you're still going to need some kind of authority, disciplinary in the middle to handle some of this.
Because you get the people.
Your phone's
I don't know. Have you ever had this spam thing? It says potential.
Oh, it says
spam.
potential.
Yeah, it just keeps. I don't know what and I just keep deleting it.
Ever since they did that update, man, it's been awesome.
And they'll do it, and they'll call like 10 times. So I don't even pay no attention or whatever.
I didn't see the name. I didn't know if.
But that's why you got to give Apple, a little Apple Watch anyway.
All right.
But when people talk about defunding the police, you know. That sounds so crazy, but when you understand what they mean by defunding the police, then I'd be like, okay, I see what you're saying.
Right.
But, let's find the balance. You know what I'm saying? You want to take some money from the police departments and, create these other different things. I understand that. But let's just make sure that, we have the equipment we need. People think when you equipment, you're talking about like vests and more guns, but I'm just talking about cars. I'm just talking about, the paying for officers and so forth. So, but I think we should be able to sit down and both sides should be able to talk about it and then figure out, what's best for those cities or, as a whole. But we just at a point now, man, is you just either my way and your way is wrong, or
Right.
your way is wrong and my way is right.
I definitely don't like the line in the sand.
Yeah.
If you're talking about politics and people want to know if you're red or blue,
Yeah.
I'm a purple guy. I am, because there's some cases where I don't agree with that side.
Yeah. Right.
But my moral standards are on this side, but I don't like the way that's being handled.
Right.
But I also see their argument.
Right.
And and that gets me in trouble a lot, especially when you start talking about hot topics. Where people want you to stand on the side and I'm on a line, and I'm like, I can't do that.
Right.
So 30 years as a police officer, schools, you've seen everything imaginable.
Yeah, just about.
I want to be very careful when I ask this question,
He's
because
gonna be very careful.
I have to. I have to. First, I'm going to say the question generically, and then help me break it down. If you understand where I'm going, who do you feel has the biggest uphill battle right now? And when I ask this, is it the officers proving that they're not all bad, or all young black men is not a threat in every situation? Because at times, I can see where some of these arguments, they like you say, they go across this line 100 times, where, say, some of society has lost faith in the police department or authority department. At the same time, the voices of, let's say, young black men need to be heard and be respected and valued, not only for their skin, but for the value of just human life, period. How do you see this, I don't say uphill battle, but right now, what do you think is some of the places we need to grow a little faster? I don't know if I'm asking that right.
Yeah, because I'm trying to understand the question.
Because I saw a headline about people quitting the police force,
Right.
For threats on their life, or they can't handle the stress and whatnot. So the police force has lost some credibility in some areas. At the same time, to me, it's a no-brainer that a life is a life, regardless of the color of the skin. So to me, that's a quicker argument to get rid of right off the bat, of like, it's a human being here. Why are you sitting on them for 9 minutes? You know what I'm saying? So I guess, and I'm not trying to devalue a young black guy when I'm asking this question. It's just, it's like, how can we get these two sides come together? Or again, I don't know if I'm asking it right.
As law enforcement, we're called to protect and serve.
Right.
So we have to do a better job. We have to do a better job, period. Even if, our experiences with, young black men may not be what we think it should be, whatever. We still have to be a better, do a better job. I also say, like parents, as parents, we're the, I'm the parent, my daughter is the child. So, I have to represent and do my part as her father. So I'm not saying that police officers are parents, but I'm saying we're the protector and server. We took this job to do that. So we have to do a better job engaging, young black men, showing better representation, so that they can trust a little bit more and understand that, we're not out here just trying to kill nobody or put nobody in jail, or whatever. So I think we have to do a better job. And then I think that, on the other side, as a young black man, I would say that I have to do, I would tell a young black man, you have to do your part as well. You know what I'm saying? some might say, well, I do my part. It's been many that done what they supposed to do and still got, shot
Right.
or whatever. But that's why I go back to, as law enforcement, we are the protectors and servers. So we are first held accountable to do what we're supposed to do so that everything else can kind of fall.
Right, because I know this argument is not completely one-sided.
No.
And
nothing is one-sided.
Right.
Always.
But it's hard to ask some of these questions
Yeah.
at times where when you're trying to find the middle ground of respect of a human life, the good officers that are trying to protect and serve
Right.
in a crazy environment day in and day out, the toll it may take, at the same time trying to find that balance
Yeah.
of chaos and
But the system has to also step up, because the system has to hold those officers that do things that are unbecoming. They have to hold
Right.
them accountable. They have to hold them accountable like they hold everybody else accountable.
Right.
It's a must. And I think that if people see the system hold officers who do wrong
Right.
accountable, things will mellow a little bit as well too.
in your opinion,
Mm-hmm.
if that officer on Floyd was a black officer on the knee on the neck,
Mm-hmm.
would you have seen full video, full everything? Do you think you would have saw the reactions as it was?
Yeah, for the most part, because for African American people, black people, police, they see police as mistreating the black community. Period. Regardless of whether you're black or white, they see that it's a long standing that the police. We go back to slavery, what they were created for and so forth. So it's a long standing of how the police
Right.
treats the black community. But
And this is me understanding how deep these roots are.
right. But when you talk about now the media, would the media have pushed it as hard as they do with a
Right.
black officer? So whatever. Because I think social media would have had to push it more, for the media. But I still think that African American black people would have still been hostile about that situation, period, because it's the police thing.
Right. I think the bubble would have popped
Mm-hmm.
eventually, or some form or fashion.
Right.
Because with the Floyd incident, there was no questions.
Yeah.
Nobody can look at that video and go, "Yeah, but what about like?"
That's the thing, that the sad part about it. There are some people, when they say that he shouldn't have resisted or whatever. And like for me, I don't care what an individual did.
Right.
They didn't deserve for you, as an officer, for you to do that. And so I have my neighbor, who's a neighbor, is a white guy, and we have a conversation, and I try not to have these conversations, but he was like, well, I just know why they, try to make him a hero. And I'm like, well, it's not the point that they're trying to, because Floyd had a past,
Yes.
or whatever. And I'm like, we all have past, what I'm saying? And I say, I don't
Right.
think that it's that they're trying to make him a hero. He just so happened to be the person that was treated and killed in such a manner that he happened to be that poster individual for police brutality. So it's not about making him a hero. It's about the injustice, and he just became that person to be that face for the injustice that has been going on for so
Right.
long.
Something recently that was kind of shocking to me.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up south of New Orleans, growing up in many different
That's why
neighborhoods.
you cooking all that crawfish, y'all.
Right. Etouffee and
Yeah.
and whatnot. I've always been around black people, and I've always felt like my areas and my communities were 50-50.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I grew up with the Cosbys and Fresh Prince, and not even knowing that the struggles it took for, let's say, a Fresh Prince to have an all black show on TV.
Mm-hmm.
It's just always been part of my culture. But recently, I had looked up the population of America, white versus black,
Mm-hmm.
just to try to get a better understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't realize how low the black population is.
Mm-hmm.
Because from my world, class had always played a bigger issue than race. So for me, I've never not known anything different.
Right. But that
But I'm realizing that parts of the world is still like I didn't realize how low the number was of total black population in America, because I'm feeling like we're like a 60-40 kind of group.
No.
And it's not. And so for me, I've been having to take a step back and realize that not everybody has grown up the way I have.
You did, right.
And one thing I like about Houston too is such a melting pot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And my kids, their schools are so mixed. And when I say mixed, I'm not talking about black and white. I'm talking
Hispanics, Asians, yeah.
From black, white, Spanish, Asians, and then you start breaking down like the countries, like Brazil and different places that truly are mixing cultures. But when I looked up, anybody take a moment. I'm not going to say the number, but look up the population, white versus black in America, and I stood back and I went.
But here, let me put a pin in that point. And so that's why people don't understand the frustration of black people when it comes to the killing and the brutality of black people with law enforcement. And so people make the point, well, police officers kill more white people, than they do black people. Where there's more white people than black people. But the point is they kill more black people at a more, the ratio. When you talk about 10-1 compared to white people, which is 5-1, something like that. So, and because the percentage of black people are so low, but they're we make up the most population in the jails, in the prison. We make up the most population when it comes to cancer and diabetes and all the sickness and stuff like that. Even like with COVID now. So it's a
even COVID killing black people.
I mean, like
I don't mean to laugh.
No,
because I saw that headline. I'm like, oh come on.
Me and Michelle was sitting there. Me and my wife was sitting at the house watching the news. I'm like, and they said, like, I was like, damn, we can't get a break.
What I'm saying? Hey, between COVID and salt, can't catch a break.
I'm just like, I can't get it. So I want people to understand that that's the frustration when it comes to, law enforcement, and black people. What I'm saying? It's the rate of how black people are being killed by the police. So that's because people, just like what you said, they don't realize the ratio.
Well, I don't think. And granted, look, I can understand why some white people react the way they do for the ignorance of their world, right? Everything's always been white, and they've only seen different versions of different people through the media and whatnot, all white neighborhood, all white job, blah, 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 blah. I get that. And when I say get that, I'm not defending them. And then there's people who, like you said, your neighbor, man, why is Floyd being held a hero? Man, do you not see everything that's happening? Dave Chappelle always has a great way of adding a little black history in his specials, and he had talked about a woman who left the casket open for her son for the world to see, to show how bad it is, and it was a turning point in history where people started realizing, like, and I think that's what Floyd is, and maybe your neighbor or other people are not realizing, like, this is another turning point for our society of acceptance across the board. My opinion is, I think once our generation are at a point where we're running the country, because we still got some old bitter white people that the powers to be, right? But for when our generation X or whatever, when our people start getting up to a point where we're running the country, I think it's going to be different in some areas. There's still a lot of room to grow, obviously.
Most definitely.
But again, I was shocked at the number, and it kind of helped me realize why at times you'll see the the argument of all lives matter or whatnot to certain people is just don't even have a clue what Brinson had to deal with today. You know, I get it. I see posts, I see videos, and I'm like, man, it sucks. But I'm not realizing the full struggle. And again, for me, I grew up with black culture being a part of my life. It was always a class issue.
Yeah.
You either had the money or you didn't. You grew up on government cheese or you didn't. Like, you know, so for me, it's been kind of an eye-opener on the side of why there may be some ignorance in the white communities. Because for me, it's always been 50-50, you know? So to change the subject slightly, you always said that music was an outlet.
Right.
So share maybe some of that or some of your passion for music or how you was able to use your time off to balance your life as a police officer and
With
whatnot.
music. Yeah. So music, like I said, was my outlet. And I had a record company when I was at the sheriff's department, gospel record label. And so I produced about 3 albums. And so my wife sings, and so she, you know, loves to sing, and she kind of started singing with this little group, and they was with somebody, and I felt like they wasn't doing them, you know, right. So I got 2 friends of mine. I was like, hey man, why don't y'all put some money in the business with me? Let's start a record label. And so we did, and then we did 2 albums with my wife, and I call them the Gospel Destiny's Child because, you know, things started getting good, you know, things started happening or whatever. I said, they didn't do an unsung on y'all.
Right.
So it kind of, after the second album, things got really, really serious. They all had good jobs too as well, but it was like a choice of you step out on faith and lead this good job and push this thing or whatever. So
especially if you're starting families and whatnot.
And so the ladies were kind of, you know, so other things got in the way or whatever. So people wanted my wife to do a solo album, but I was like, look, I just spent all my money on this last album. So we just kind of left it alone, you know, and finished raising our girls to college and so forth. And we continue to do praise and worship at different churches. You know, I've led worship at several different churches as well. And so now we're about to get ready to venture back into our music thing. And actually, I'm getting ready to do a live worship recording.
Now the kids are out of the house. You can kind of get back in the groove a little bit.
Thing. Right.
There you
so
go.
we're getting ready to do a live virtual recording in September. So we're pretty excited about that because we're getting ready to get back into the studio.
Now, I've witnessed it, but how much of a blessing is it to sing with your spouse on stage?
My wife turns me on when she sings.
Come on now.
I'm looking at her like, oh, you know, so it's a turn on.
Girl.
It's a turn on to see her sing.
It's a different level of intimacy.
Yeah, and she has a beautiful voice. So we whether it be she's singing R&B, gospel, I mean, whatever. When she's singing, I'm just like, okay, you know what I'm saying? So,
I am always amazed how the smallest people have the biggest voices.
Yeah.
And your wife is a powerhouse.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, you do pretty good.
Yeah, I'm doing well, but she's a beast.
Man.
Yeah, she's a beast.
I've seen her rip a couple, and it's not, how can I put it? It ain't that she's the biggest voice in her room. It's that soul.
Yeah, she just has
in it that she brings out.
Yeah, she has
and
beautiful voice.
She's singing like she's 6'5".
Yeah.
But she's really what, 4'2", or I mean
5'1", you know,
5'1.5".
Yeah, about 5'1", with some heels on.
With some heels on.
Yeah, but yeah, she's a blessing when she sings, and I really love it. You know, so when I put, because I just found myself singing to find myself into the business, but I like to put, you know, productions on and the shows on, whatever. I just sing a little bit because, you know, but like the thing we're doing now, I'm scripting it out so all the vocalists can sing. I may sing a little bit, but I just love to see the finished product of, you know, things come together, you know, and I just love to, like I said, I just love to see my wife sing.
Does your girls sing?
They do. They don't really like to, but they can sing. Both of them can sing.
I mean, I would imagine it being heavy in the house. They got a little bit. Yeah, my mom and dad.
They really can sing, but they just don't care for singing. And my oldest can rap like she can. Yeah, she's a bad one, you know. So yeah, they both had the talent. If you, how can I ask this?
how important was your outlet when it comes to stress? Because I know for me, you put me in a room with a canvas and a little bit of music, and I get the painting or making something. It's like my prayer closet. Creation
Great,
is truly my prayer closet.
Yeah.
So when you look at music, was it always your outlet, or it was just such a passion and came easy to you that you got off of work and if there was a mic, you picked it up, you know?
Yeah, I think it was just an outlet. You know, I
Right.
just love to create it. You know what I'm saying? I love to create ideas with music. I love to get deep into when people write their lyrics. You know, like, hey,
Right.
how did they think about that? You know, actually, I wrote an album myself. You know, I wrote it when I was going through some things. So you know, music and exercising is my outlet, you know.
Right.
Yeah. 10 years ago, I put a picture up on social media. I was about 245 pounds.
Really?
Yeah.
I
yeah.
cannot see you
Yeah.
that
So
size.
I'm like.
I can't see you.
Yeah, I look like I was so big. My passport picture before I lost the weight. We were getting ready to go on vacation. My daughter's like, "Dad, they're not gonna let you out of the country because this
Come
don't
on.
look nothing like you know."
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm you know, it's working out is my other outlet. You know. Yeah.
Are you able to speak on, let's say, spouses of law enforcement? Or is that something I need to bring her in
Yeah,
here?
she could probably speak on that. I mean, I've been doing it. I've been, you know, like she's been with me since I've been in law enforcement,
Right.
with the marriage or whatever. And so I think when we first got married, it was a little difficult, for her when I would leave, you know, and
Long hours
uniform,
and
long out because I worked little side jobs, whatever. But just the idea when you go out there in uniform, is he coming back home, you know, or whatever.
Right.
So those were conversations we used to have. But you know, she just and then now the oldest daughter is the same thing. You know, people like, you know, how do you do it? You know, like she said, I just pray about it and cover them in the blood and let the Lord handle it.
Right.
You know, because that's all I can do. You know what I'm saying? And so, but it's like anything else, we all take for granted when we leave home, we're coming back.
Right.
And you know, that's just not the case. We just never know. So you know, you take each moment for what it is and appreciate it. And so she just covers in the blood and, you know, see you later. You know, we always try to, especially now, you know, we always try to kiss, you know, say, you know, goodbye,
Right.
I love you or whatever before we leave, you know, and so forth. So, you know, kind of think that's how she handles it.
All right, man. What would be your advice right now for the young black men in the world right now?
My advice, like I would always tell my students that I mentor, you know, man, you are a king. You are great. Don't let nobody tell you what you are not. You can be whatever, you know, whatever it is you choose to be. And whether that be, you know, and I get tired of people, you know, football player, basketball. You can be an attorney. You
Right.
can be a doctor. You can be a dentist. You can be, you know, a entrepreneur, you know, whatever it is.
Right.
So don't let nobody dictate your future. You know, continue to be positive. Continue to keep working hard, pushing strong, and you know, when you do come into contact with law enforcement, you know, with the times that we're dealing with on that street, you can't beat them. You know, so comply to what they're asking, and if it's something wrong, you can fight that. You know, in court. You can fight that with an attorney, you know, family protest and so forth and so on. But if you get into a resisting match and it, you know, turns deadly, you know, the sad part is that if something happens, we can't bring you back. So, you know, just keep that in mind when you have these encounters or whatever, and learn the law. Learn what's legal and what's not legal, so you can know your rights as well. So, you know, that's what my advice to them will be. And you are great, my brother. You are great.
Your advice for the current police officer trying to make it in a world that it's not easy for him either,
Right.
or her.
Him or her. And my point to them, like I told my 25-year-old daughter, the first thing I told her when she got this profession, law enforcement is 90% communication and 10% everything else. 10% everything.
You can almost say that for any relationship
You
right
can-
off the bat.
You can, you know. And so when I said they was like 10%, I'm like 10%. I mean, you're shooting, you're fighting. You just got to be a great 10%. But if you know how to talk to people, and you'll go a long way in this business, you know. And have a little empathy. Have a little empathy for people.
right.
You know what I'm saying? Because everybody may not have the things you had. Everybody's struggle may not, you know, be the same struggles. You know what I'm saying? You don't know what somebody's dealing with that day. You don't know what they're dealing with. You know, as I watch people who have all kind of, you know, issues and stuff that's heavy on their hearts. You don't know. So have a little empathy, you know, have a little listening skills to see what you're dealing with or whatever. And just show a little compassion. You know, everybody don't have to go to jail.
Right.
Everybody does not have to go to jail. It's okay. You know, it's okay. And so, you know, be a person of integrity and character. You know, be a person of integrity and character in this profession, and it'll take you a long way. And you know, it shouldn't be us against them. It should be us working together.
Right.
You know, and so if you take those, you know, those steps, man, you go a long way in this profession. You know, honestly.
Your advice to somebody who don't understand the argument from both sides. Any advice to someone looking into the glass house, or someone on the outside who is maybe not black or not an officer, who just don't understand why this keeps happening? Right. Any advice or any view or perception or encouragement of understanding that not everybody's against y'all as a black man or as an officer. It just, some of us just don't understand. So
right.
And I know that's
so. Look, here's the thing. Who out there? If you watch Fox News, watch a little CNN too. If you watch CNN News, watch a little Fox too. Listen to both perspectives and try to listen at what. Because see, if you just watch Fox all day, then that's all you're going to believe.
Right.
If you watch CNN all day, that's all you're going to believe. So the moral to what I'm saying is that listen.
Right.
Listen from your left ear, listen from your right ear, and try to make it mesh together.
I say don't listen to the media at all.
You know,
but
no, that was my analogy, because I got a lot of people, you know, I'm telling you, my neighbors, all they do is listen to Fox.
Oh.
And Fox. So it's, you know, that hey.
Right.
You know, and I'm not saying CNN is right. I'm not saying Fox is right. But I'm just saying if you take a listen to both perspectives, you can kind of formulate like, oh, I see what they're saying.
Right.
Oh, I see what. You can try to formulate a middle ground. You know what I'm saying? But if you just listen at this side only and not that side, you know, that's how you're gonna roll. So I try to listen at both sides, both perspectives, to try to understand why you feel this way and understand why, you know, I feel this way or whatever. And it's almost like in my marriage. Sometimes my wife could say some stuff, I'd be like, what? You know, but I try to listen at what she says to understand, right. Like, you know, I don't feel that way, but I try to, you know, hear what she's saying. And sometimes I can get it, and then sometimes I don't, right. But I'm willing to listen. And so I think a lot of times today, people are not willing to listen. They just want to talk, and not willing to listen, you know. So, you know, that's my thing. Listen.
As you was talking just now, I was thinking, I don't know why it popped up, but that scene in White Man Can't Jump, mm-hmm. when Wesley and Woody's arguing about listening to Jimmy. You know,
yeah,
I can hear Jimmy. No, you can't. You know, you listen to Jimmy, but do you hear him?
Yeah, right, exactly, you know? Exactly. And I almost said that, like, you know, too. I said, listen, like, are you here? You know, yeah,
right,
exactly.
Because there's a difference.
There's a difference. Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
So, all right, so we're gonna finish this up on some fun here. I got this pod deck of cards, and it has random questions.
Okay, we should play some spades. No,
spades, bro. I'm down. I'll tell you what. Sound that you love to hear. Here, I'll ask a couple before I get into this.
A sound that I love to hear?
Yeah, that you love to hear.
Like the sea, the water from the ocean.
Right.
You know, yeah, that's it.
Just got back from Gulf Shores. Yeah. Can't argue with it.
It's a beautiful sound.
The giggle of my children.
Oh, wait. Now, I love to hear that sound too, but I also like to hear the cold can of a Coke open up too. Yeah. So
ice cold.
Yes.
Like it's different. If it's a hot can, it don't
crisp. Be like right at the refrigerator,
right.
You know, freezer. Yeah, that's the one.
Sound that you hate.
The screeching of the like a pot with the fork on it.
Oh,
you know,
that doesn't have the Teflon coating?
Yeah,
my daughter's like that.
I run up out of there. Yeah.
Right? You don't have enough.
Yeah.
All right, so let's see here. We're going to have a little fun here. All right, pull a card out.
It's a magic trick, yeah.
Magic trick. All right, let's see. If you could send a message to the entire world, what would you say in 30 seconds? Brother, you've been saying a message for an hour, man.
In the great words of Rodney King, can't we all just get
Right?
can't we all just get along?
Man.
Come on.
All right.
Man.
Hey, I can't argue with that, man.
Jeez.
All right. If you had someone following you around all the time, what would you have them do?
If I had them follow me around,
Yeah. If
all
you
the
had
time,
a 24-hour assistant, what would they be doing?
taking notes.
Taking notes.
Taking notes of things that I'm doing. So, because sometimes I'm moving so fast. So, taking notes. Like, did I do that for real? Taking notes. Especially like, in marriage. Because I'd be like, my wife be saying, you said, I ain't say that. Did I say that? So,
Accountability.
yeah.
There you go.
So, taking
All right.
notes.
Let's see here. What was the worst job you ever had?
The United States Army.
Whoa. A little quick on that
Yeah,
one, huh?
yeah.
Okay. You voiced that once or twice during this conversation. Okay.
yeah.
And no changing that.
No changing that.
Okay.
No
All right.
changing
All
that.
right.
No,
Just making
no,
sure.
no, what's
I didn't know if you wanted to bring up a pizza job or something.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Who is your favorite hero in fiction?
In fiction?
Yeah. You got a superhero, somebody you
Man.
And I tell you what, I'll expand that. I'll go favorite hero / athlete. If you grew up.
My favorite fictional hero is Spider-Man.
Oh.
I remember when Spider-Man first came out, on the big screen. Man, I used to call in sick so I could be one of the first
What?
ones. Yeah,
first one in the theater.
When they
every
very
time.
first started doing these Marvel, I was like, yeah, I got to be here. Yeah,
Right. All right. Let's see. If you could guarantee one thing in life besides money, what would it be?
If I could guarantee one thing in life.
Okay, so if you looked at it and you was like, you know what, I would like this. This would have been a solid thing for my whole life. What would it have been? Besides money.
So would the guarantee thing be for me or for somebody else?
Well, it says if you could guarantee one thing in life. Well, it doesn't say your life. It just says.
If you could guarantee one thing in life.
I know that's kind of a hard question.
Because I'm saying, one thing I can guarantee, I don't know what I can guarantee. I don't know about that question. Because I couldn't guarantee money. I mean,
right.
Like, I don't know about that question.
I just hearing you talk today, I would say something to do with music for everybody to be able to hear the music.
Hear the music?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, because if I could guarantee, something today outside of money, because I couldn't guarantee people money anyway. I ain't got a lot to guarantee,
Right.
But probably, what? Love.
Can't everybody to really experience love, true love.
Yeah, because if we all try to guarantee love, the world would be a better place.
Right? Everybody needs a hug, man.
Yeah.
All right. Which words or phrases do you overuse? Come on, I know there's a couple dad ones in there.
Yeah, this is a family show, so
Right,
it's a lot of profane words that I use, like.
Is there a dad comment or statement that you're always using, or something that I'm like, oh, there you go, there's dad again.
I'm always fussing about, did you pick that up?
Right.
You do that, so they always know when I'm about to start preaching about, fussing about picking up something or doing something. So
right.
they'll be like, oh, here you go on this, did you do that? So, that's my kind of thing. And my thing when they, I'm not going to say my kids be like, Dad, why you say that? So, but I do have, a few curse words that may come out. So,
Okay. What is your favorite non-curse word?
Yeah, shoot. Yeah, because
right.
I'm about to say.
I say crap a lot.
Crap a lot.
Yeah. So I use crap and
full of crap. Huh?
Yeah, everything's crappy. So that's the one I use. Or instead of calling names, I'll say Jackrod. Right?
Jackrod.
Because that kind of covers the bases, and I don't have to say no
what
more.
You want to say. Exactly.
That's the way I can get around.
Jackrod.
Right? All right. Here we go. Which band or artist would you, dead or alive, would you have play at your funeral? Cool.
I know it would be hard for her to do, but if I pass before my wife, I want my wife to sing.
Oh, you just earned 10,000 points right there. And your wife ain't going to be in no position to sing.
I know. I just said if she could, pull it off, that would be,
you earned some points on that one, buddy.
I'm just saying,
All right, one's got to go. You can only keep 2 people on your basketball team.
Okay.
Jordan, Kobe, LeBron. One's got to go. Who you kicking off the team?
I'm going to keep LeBron and Kobe.
Oh. See, I'd
no,
have
not to MJ, but I'm just going to keep LeBron.
I would have to go MJ and Kobe.
I know.
I would have to, man.
I figured that because that's the era that we grew up in. So most people
is.
Most people gonna say MJ.
They both was coached by Phil Jackson.
Yeah.
There's a lot of similarities.
I think MJ was one of the greatest, and I think he took basketball to a whole another level.
Yeah,
and the funny part about it is I never owned a pair of Jordans in my life.
Me neither.
But look, my daughter this year, both of them bought me some.
Yes, finally.
Classic ones with the patent leather around and the white ones. They bought me some
with the little red. Ain't it got like a red and black stripe at the bottom?
No, they black with the patent leather all the way around, and they white. Yeah. So they call them retros or something, I don't know. But I had always wanted some when I was young. I couldn't afford them, but they bought me some for Father's Day.
One's got to go. R&B group. Jodeci, Boys to Men, BBD.
Boys to Men.
Boys to Men.
Yeah, they got to go.
Man, see, that's a hard one too, man, because I love Jodeci staying.
Yeah, Boys to Men, both groups are great, but I love Jodeci and Boys to Men because they're raunchy. You know, like I used to love some Jodeci. Oh man, yeah, Jodeci.
Jodeci was a different level.
It was.
They wasn't mainstream, so
right.
they could go off a different route.
I'm telling you, I love Jodeci. I tell my wife that's some songs I used to sing to her.
when you walk outside, what's the first thing you throwing on the grill?
Probably a steak.
Yeah, steak, man?
Steak or some ribs.
Ribs?
Yeah.
I'm a chicken wing guy.
Chicken wings?
Oh, dude.
Well, I don't eat chicken on the bone, so.
Oh, you don't?
No.
You just don't care for it?
Yeah, there's something.
Or are you just not a bone-in guy?
It's just about the
Well, what about ribs?
The little chicken on the bones. Just something about that little vein that looks on a chicken wing. I just can't deal with it. Yeah, I know it's petty, but just give me a chicken breast. I'm
okay,
good.
but you said you're fine with ribs?
Yeah, I'll eat
eating off the ribs.
Yeah, I'll eat a rib. Mm-hmm.
Man, we stopped off at an Applebee's outside of Gulf Shores, and I got a half a rack of baby ribs.
Really?
And they
were pretty good.
Whoever cooked them that night were good.
Okay.
Now, Applebee's is not the place to go for ribs.
No, obviously.
But I looked at the menu. There was nothing else I was like craving. I was like, man, I ain't had some ribs in a while. Because they used to have them little riblets.
Right.
And whatnot. All right. If you walk through the pearly gates, what would you like God to hear?
Ooh.
What would you like to hear?
What would I want to hear from God? Servant well done.
Amen, brother.
Amen.
Man, I appreciate you, brother.
Appreciate you,
man,
brother.
welcome back anytime, bro.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Thanks so much.
Oh.